Well, thank you everyone for joining today for this webinar, and we look forward to talking to you about how NHS trusts are using LifeQI to enable quality improvement. So my name's Andrew. I'm going to be sort of running the webinar today. I'm joined by my colleague Jason. So Jason's going to be managing the Q&A and the chat. So if you do have any questions, fire them over to Jason. He'll either answer them or we'll get them answered in some time at the end of the webinar today. Also, if you would like to organise a follow-up discussion with Jason or myself about how LifeQI could be used in your organisation, then please do let Jason know. We'll happily set that up for you. We can send you a link to really easily sort of just book in a quick call and we can get that process started. So through the course of the webinar, Jason's also going to share some useful links, and we're also hoping to get some feedback from you guys as we go through the demo today. And he's going to send a couple of multiple choice questions over, so they'll just pop up on the screen. Really appreciate it if you could answer those. And if we get time at the end, we'll discuss some of the results of those as well. Okay, we'll also be recording the webinar, so if you do want to watch it back at a later date, or you do need to nip out early, then that's absolutely fine. We will follow up with the recording after the session today. Okay, so by way of brief introduction to LifeQI. So LifeQI software, it's been used in the NHS since 2015 used by trusts to run, manage, facilitate their quality improvement work. And it's really been developed in collaboration with QI teams across the NHS, including leaders in the field, people like East London Foundation Trust and others. And by trusts of all different types and sizes as well. So really sort of proven solution for that work. And as well as running internal improvement work, it's been used for improvement training. So getting people familiar with QI tools and such like, and we'll have a look at some of that in the system in a moment. And also for running quality improvement collaboratives regionally or nationally. And some of you may well have been involved with some of those in the past. So today we're going to focus on how LifeQI is used within trusts to sort of run and manage their quality improvement work across their remit. So through the work that we do with the trusts that we work with, they could be acute trusts, mental health trusts, community, ambulance trusts, basically a whole range of different organisations. And they are really often at different stages of their QI journey, as we would put it. So some are just starting out in quality improvement, others are much more mature and have much more established processes. But what we find in speaking to them is that there's three key challenges that really stand out. So these are on the slide here. So the first one being how to engage staff in QI. So this seems to be always a challenge wherever you go, is making QI accessible to staff, making sure people understand how to get involved and the importance of doing it. So we're going to have a look at how to do that in LifeQI in a moment. The second one here is around building improvement skills. So making QI accessible for staff and also achievable in terms of their understanding, using basic tools and processes and so on. And then the third piece, which is really important, is being able to execute and track improvement work at scale across your trust or other organisations. So really managing that process, and obviously there's governance steps that need to come into that. So we'll have a look at, as we go through the demo today, how LifeQI helps trusts to address these different challenges that we've identified. So one of the polls we've got is around which of these challenges really resonates with you. So yeah, if any of these in particular are important to you, then we'd love to hear about that, and maybe we can discuss some of these results later. Okay, so I'm going to go over now into the system and give a bit of a demo of LifeQI and talk about the different features and functionality that trusts are using to address those challenges that we've outlined. Okay, so I'm logged in here. We're going to be talking today about our trust, which is Bay Health General. So our kind of make-believe trust that we're going to be using as a basis today. And we've logged in here on my start page. This is pointing me towards different things that I'm involved with in improvement at Bay Health General, different projects and such like that I'm involved with. We've got the main menu on the left-hand side. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time sort of in some of these areas today. We won't get through everything because we don't have a huge amount of time, but hopefully give you an overview of how trusts use the system. So the place I would like to start is the projects area. And projects is really the heart of the system. It's where the majority of users spend most of their time. And this is a really important element for trusts in trying to make QI accessible, reduce the barrier for entry for staff, so they can come into here and see a list of projects that are going on across the trust. So you can see that listed here. You can search those lists using various filters. If you want to go and search your projects using these different filters here, or you can come and use the text search. So if somebody was coming in to start a new project, let's say on sepsis, they could come and see past projects and teams that have worked on this and hopefully learn from that and take that forward into their own work. So really this gives the central home for all your QI work. It also gives the visibility of that work and allows people to sort of be inspired really from the successful work that might have already happened. As well as learning from within your own trust and sort of that catalogue of information, you can also see successful projects from other trusts as well. So if you are interested in a particular topic, you can come and search that in here and see if other trusts have run projects on that. Obviously, if they've shared them, then you'll be able to access that information in the system. Okay, so next up, I want to go and have a look at starting a project, because this is really important in terms of engaging people with QI, is making it super simple really for people to initiate and be involved with quality improvement projects. So it's a very simple process to start a project in Life QI. Staff will come in and hit the button up here. Just ignore that one, move on. So basically it's going to guide you through the process of setting up projects in the system. That's asking for a title. I won't spend too much time thinking of an imaginative title. And then it guides you through the process of setting up a charter for this project. You can see things like an aim statement, rationale that it's encouraging people to think about. There's lots of nice guidance given. So for example, with the aim statement here, different things that people could think about and some examples, good and bad, that people can follow. And you can see within our trust, we've set up some governance steps within our project process. So for example, here, this is asking for a lead division. So we've defined within our organization that we want a lead division for each project. So people can come and select that. We're going to do this one in the corporate division. And then add that to the project. And you can see that's been added in here. You can also invite other people into projects. So if I come and invite Jason into my project here, add him in. So this is the membership of the projects, and people will then get invited to come and collaborate on that piece of work. This is also where you can start to categorize projects, and we'll come on to this a little bit later. We'll go and have a look at some dashboards and such like. But things like trust priorities that may be set out at the trust level, come and link projects up to those, or use different tags to categorize your projects as well. So really simple process. There's also the option to add in things like additional charters and additional processes if you want to, also things like approval steps. So you can see this project needs an approval. So I can either create a draft or request that approval, and then that would fire off that approval to the relevant people in the trust to action. Yeah, so again, create that would then spin up the project in the system. for people to go and work on and sort of guide them through the project process. Okay, rather than go and look at that project, which wouldn't have anything in it yet, I want to spend a few minutes going through a already populated project. And I'm going to look at this one at the top here. So I'm just going to run you through sort of the anatomy of a project in LifeQI. It's a really nice structured and consistent process. So I think that's another important thing when you're trying to engage staff and get staff comfortable with the QI process, to have something that's easy to follow. There's the basic steps of a project, sort of guided within the different tabs along the top here. You can see the project summary below that. So we've got this project progress score. This is really easy to use score. Each project starts at a 0.5 and hopefully evolves through these different phases as it goes through the process of a project, but also starts to demonstrate different levels of improvement as you get to sort of level 3 and above. Project team, so you can come and invite colleagues into here, and then you can see this project has some QI specific tools in here, things like the driver diagram, measures and charts for those measures, and also PDSAs, plan, do, study, act cycles that are being run as part of this project's work. So the great thing about the tools in LifeQI is they're really simple to use. So staff can really get involved with using those tools with, often very minimal understanding of them beforehand. So things like key driver diagram, specific tool within the system, you can see that here. Building these makes it really simple, means people don't have to go off and find other templates, mess around with those in other applications. So it's all sort of centralized within this space. And these are all customizable in terms of colors and everything that you're doing within here. It's also a good time to point out some of the guidance given to staff. So if people are interested in driver diagrams or creating a driver diagram, they can come into our help center. They can read the articles on driver diagrams, a basic introduction to the tools. But they can also come and watch videos, step-by-step instructions on how to create those diagrams in the system. It's all really easy to digest, a few minutes for each video. People can just access that on demand. Okay, so next up, just going to guide through some of these different tabs along the top. So we've got measures area. It's really popular, really important part of LifeQI is creating charts. So whatever you're measuring within your QI project, whether that be some outcome measures, maybe process measures, balance measures, you can document those in here. You can use different types of chart, run chart being kind of the default really, but also different SVC charts that you might want to use through the course of your work. But the great thing about the system is whatever you're doing in this charting space, it just makes it super simple to achieve. You have a data table. So this is where people come and input their data, whether that's on a monthly basis, weekly basis, whatever that might be. And then the system will build those charts. This is a particular type of SVC chart, P chart, and it's obviously plotting the data. It's working out control limits on the data set. You can then link in when changes are implemented. So you can see we've got some PDSAs implemented at different times on this data set. You can annotate the charts, which is the notes here. And then the pink at the top, so this is highlighting any special cause variations, so any statistical anomalies within the data set. So these are highlighted for you. Again, people don't need to know a huge amount of information about what these are, but just having that highlighted for them is a good guide to when they might have some sort of improvement in their measure. It's really easy to use tools. Also, if you're getting sort of more complex and you want to aggregate data sets, you can absolutely do that. So here we've got the same measure in different places and then an aggregated view of that measure. So lots of great tools to help you analyze your data and document that within the project space. Then very quickly, plan, do, study, act cycles. This is kind of the most popular way to test changes within improvement work, and really a nice systematic way to record that within the system. I just showed how you can document those on your charts, but this PDSA's area is really where all the information is stored around those. You can, document your plan, make predictions, record your findings, and also highlight any tasks that need to be achieved to implement changes as well. So really useful as a central home for that, ensures that all that documentation is done. Okay, so that's a very quick run through of some of the QI tools that teams would be using. But of course, that's only one element of the project work. So there's also things like discussions, collaborating with colleagues, sharing documents, and these are all available in the system. We've got discussions area, we've got document space. So basically, this project space is the home for all this work for this team, and they can come together in here and collaborate on that. Okay, so moving away from the project a little bit now, I wanted to talk about how that collaboration works on a slightly wider scale. So you can use groups within the system. Now, groups can be used for divisions, directorates, departments. They can also be used for more thematic groupings or maybe even training cohorts. So this is particularly useful if you are trying to improve capability of staff in their QI. You're running training. You can have these central spaces where all the participants can come together. You can see their projects. They can learn from each other, sort of peer-to-peer learning within here. And they can have shared resources and shared discussions people can get involved in. So really sort of helping to bring that work together and ensure that people are learning in the best way possible. Okay, so I'm just going to duck out of the system for a moment and go to our landing page. So I just wanted to spend a few minutes on kind of the practicalities really of running QI across the trust. We'll go back into the system in a minute and look at some of the dashboards and things that help with that. But first, I wanted to point out some of these case studies. So obviously, everything we're looking at today is kind of the features and functionality that help this process, but probably what you're interested in as well is how other trusts achieve that. So Jason's going to share some links to some different case studies that we've got. You can see some of these on our website here. So people like Barts Health, Central North West London, and there's a nice video here from East London Foundation Trust. So please go and have a look at those if you're interested in that and some of the more sort of trust-specific work and how they operate. And yeah, those real examples are super helpful. Okay, so going back into Life QI now, I'm going to talk a little bit more about how, I guess, the last challenge, which is more about how you execute this improvement at scale and how you manage that whole process. And we looked, so some very basic examples of like the governance processes when setting up a project that you might want to implement. But really, as you're trying to do this at scale, you want to centralize a lot of that improvement activity and sort of coordinate that centrally. So first thing we have is each trust or organization has their own profile page. This is what we're looking at here. This is a space where you can see all the projects that are running, see different groups or departments, directorates, etc. You can also set things like priorities for the trust. So if you've got your strategic priorities that you're working toward, you can set those here and ensure that any projects are sort of linked up to the appropriate ones. So each organization is going to have slightly different governance requirements in terms of the charter process, approvals, notifications, reporting, and these can all be customized within the admin area. I'm not going to go into that in detail today, but just to let you know that absolutely that is possible and customizable for each organization. So in terms of reporting and sort of managing and tracking your QI across your organization, there's a couple of different types of reporting in the system. So the first one is static reports. So these can be run on individual projects or groups of projects, more like a sort of status of those projects. But the other element is around dashboards. So I'm going to pull up some dashboards in the analytics area. So you can see this list here, all different dashboards that we've got access to within Bay Health. So we've got an organisation-wide dashboard, we've got a divisional dashboard example, all our safety projects, priority projects. These kind of different flavors of dashboard that you can implement, and you can customize all of these as well. And just to demonstrate that, I'm going to talk you through one dashboard now, which is the organisation-wide dashboard, and you can see that on the screen now. So we're looking at things like the number of currently active projects within the organisation, number of those projects showing different levels of improvement, which is what we see here. Projects over time, or split down by different divisions or departments in the chart below. Monitoring new projects, recently completed projects, or even how projects are aligning with the core priorities of the trust of the organisation. And you see that here, number of projects running related to each of these priorities, and a number of those projects that are actually demonstrating improvement. So these kind of dashboards, and this is just one example, these sort of really help you to coordinate the activity going on across the organisation. Okay, so that's a really quick run through of some of the core functionality. I think before we go in and take questions, just to sort of reinforce that if anyone's interested in a sort of more in-depth look at this or discussing how it would work within their trust, then do get in touch with myself or Jason. Jason's going to share the link to book a call as well. So if you did want to do that, you can do it through the link. And yeah, we'd love to hear from you. And with that, I will ask Jason if there's any questions.
Remember to take myself off mute. Thank you, Andrew, for that. That was good. Yeah, I've shared the book a call link already, and I'll pop it back in the chat again for people now. I've also just set the last sort of poll live, just to grab that last little bit of feedback. In terms of questions, I do have a couple that have already come in for you. So one is about, I guess, sort of staffing, if you like. So what kind of staffing resource do we need in place within our organisation to make effective use of Live QI, I guess, across what could be a large staff base out there? What do we need in place to help support that?
Yeah, that's a good question. So yeah, it's good to have obviously some sort of central sort of coordination for the software. So it's normally QI team. Traditionally, QI teams are quite small, so it might only be one or two of you in that team. But yeah, having someone who can administer the system and support people using the system within the trust, I think is very important. But a lot of the training and things like that can be self-served. So there's not a huge resource from that front that's required.
Sounds good. I guess the next question is kind of related to that, perhaps a bit of a follow-up, is about the support that's available from Live QI for QI teams using this and for the wider staff base using this.
Yeah, so lots of support available. So both for sort of centrally, you know, for a QI team, you would have a named success manager on our side. They would help guide you through the process or make sure you're making the most of the system and that it's operating to meet your needs, really. So that's sort of dedicated support there. For every user within the system, we have live chat that's available, so people can access that at any time. They can speak to one of our support team within there. We also have our help center, which I showed very briefly earlier, has a whole range of videos and articles on how to use the system. And we also have email support as well. So plenty of options available. Shouldn't be anyone who can't get help, basically.
Good, thank you. And then I've got two questions which are kind of related, really. One is about how much does Live QI cost, and the other one that's just come in is, are there any limits to the number of groups or people using the system?
Yes, I'll take the second question first. There's no limits to the number of groups or projects or programs of work or anything within the system. The number of people is, I mean, I guess that is in theory limited by the size of a subscription, size of an organization. So, which brings us on to the pricing question. So the pricing is basically by users. So it's very scalable. So yeah, from small trusts or small organizations up to very large ones. There's various options available based on your number of users involved in QI, and we often find that varies as well depending on how mature QI is in an organization. Might have different numbers of users involved. So yeah, if you're interested in learning more about the pricing, then do get in touch or contact us through the chat quickly now, and we can send you some follow-up information on that.
Perfect, thank you. I think that's all that's come in terms of questions so far. I guess unless there are any others, I was just going to play back the results of at least one of the polls. Sorry, the second one we ran was around the main UI challenge that you kind of the attendees sort of face, and the results sort of fairly clear. I think it was 60% of people saying that engaging staff in QI was the main challenge. Second to that was executing and tracking the improvement projects, of which 30% kind of voted for that, and then the remaining 10% voted for building improvement skills. And I don't know about you, Andrew, but I think that probably resonates with a lot of the conversations that I have, that engaging often frontline staff in doing QI on a regular basis remains a fairly intractable issue for a lot of these organizations.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and thank you everyone for providing your feedback on that. Really appreciate it. Okay. Thank you, Jason, for that insight, and thank you everyone for joining. As I said, we will follow up this with a recording of the webinar, so if you do want to rewatch that or share that with colleagues, please do feel free to do that. And yeah, we'd love to hear from you. So we've got contact details on the screen, so feel free to get in touch through any of those channels, and we can discuss how Life QI could work for you in particular.
I think the recording will probably come out by email in about 24 hours time at some point tomorrow. I expect that email will come out to you. Perfect. I think we're right about on time.
Ideal. Thank you, everyone.
Cheers, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.